In no particular order, Eric Wagenen, Chaisson, aka Catrina, Taya, Marty Elias, and of course, Rey Mysterio. From the world of TV, you've worked somewhat in wrestling. You did Tough Enough and Legends House and stuff like that, but you also have worked on a lot of Mark Burnett's projects. Skip, you didn't do any wrestling stuff before this, or did you?
No, I was a big, or still am, big Kung Fu and comic book fan.
Woohoo! You're in the right place.
Then, really, it's as Robert is too. So I grew up watching WWF, and I loved how the characters had their backstory. And I, sitting there with my dad, I believed it. And so when they walked around, I believed it. And so that was one of my things, was I wanted to bring that richness of character back in a cinematic form and have it be believable, or at least in our hyper-real world. And I also wanted to have all those characters reflected in what's today. It's what I see out here. It's, when you guys watch it, you get taken away, like Marvel Universe, and you just go with it. So there's ninjas, there's fire-breathing dragons, there's all this stuff, so, and it just works.
Yeah, and I guess part of the challenge is figuring out how do we get ninjas and fire-breathing dragons into a believable real world.
Yeah, with nunchucks. So that's,
with nunchucks, yeah. Did you figure out, because you're right that Lucha Underground brings a storytelling to wrestling that I think is very important but missing on a lot of shows these days. Did you have to figure out how to translate these stories to wrestling fans? Or did you just figure good stories are universal?
I think good stories are universal. That's Robert's discussion. And Krista Joseph, he's not here writer-wise, because it all starts on paper.
Yeah.
And then everyone goes with that. If the story is honest, even though it's fantastical, you go with it. I mean, that's testament to all you guys, and what this Comic-Con is about, is believing in strong stories. And that's what we're bringing.
And Dorian, were you brought in to maybe make sure that the influence of Lucha, and you come from AAA, but the influence of Lucha still holds a paramount while all this storytelling and television show making is going on?
Yes, of course. One of the most important things is when we start all this project, we were thinking how to bring Lucha Libre to the United States. It was not just wrestling, it was like Lucha Libre. So everything started 25 years ago when my uncle started to make a revolution of this business with AAA. We started to create and to give a position to the new wrestlers like Rey Mysterio and other superstars. And the problem was how to bring again in a high level and with really good quality the Lucha Libre to the United States. And we have the fortune to have people in our company like Robert Rodriguez, to have Mark Burnett, and to have all these creative guys like DJ, like Skip, like even Eric, working with us in a team, creating and developing these backgrounds for all these characters that we have. And it's amazing how you have characters like Pentagon, like Drago, like Phoenix, who live in both of the worlds, in AAA and in Lucha Underground. And the background that the creative DJ, Skip, with all the vignettes, it's amazing, When I saw the first vignette of Skip, I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the characters were developed before we ever cast a single person. I know the Prince Puma character had been. We worked with the PhD in, I think, Mesoamerican Studies named Carl Taub, and we worked with a company that developed IP for some of the big comic book companies. And that's where we sort of developed the idea of the Aztec tribes and what different tribes would be and what they would look like and what their symbols would be. And so before we ever cast a single person, we really flushed out a lot of the IP, not necessarily the plot, the storylines, but things like the costuming, things like the Aztec mandala that would be in the middle of the ring, all the kind of little touches that you see were a lot of times thought out. Then it became about finding performers that could fit that role. And it's a unique challenge when you're doing that, because we want Latinos, but we also want people who can speak English, and we also want people who know how to lucha and who can work with many different styles, and men and women, and we have minis and exoticos, and we were going to go all the way with all the different lucha libre characters. And so we cast for certain parts rather than cast people and then develop the parts for them. And I think that was probably a wise decision, because it's easy to get sidetracked by somebody's particular talent, and that you want to change the character. And not that we don't change the character a little bit, but we knew that we needed a Prince Puma character. We knew we needed Mil Muertes. We had some dark matches where we tried different people out, and then ultimately we just pulled the trigger on the guys that we have. And I think that now, if you look at those characters, they're no longer our characters, they're the wrestlers' characters.
And is that still the way it's done to this day? For instance, like on episode 5 that just aired last week, we saw who we all know as Sami Callihan pop up. Do you say, oh, Sami Callahan's available, we think he'd be great, let's figure out a character for him, or do you have an Ivelisse boyfriend character still that you're casting?
In that case, it was Sami was available. In that case, Sami was available, and we said, let's grab him, and let's find an entry point for him, and let's create a character for him. He was one of those people, and that's sort of where it's really helpful to have someone like Chris DeJoseph and Chris Roach involved, because they know who's out there in the indie scene. And when somebody becomes available, we talk. We say, okay, who is this person? What can he do? Can he lucha? Is he Hispanic? Can he speak Spanish? We ask sort of the gamut of questions, and is he technical? Is he rudo? Where would we fit him in? And so we kind of come up with a quick plan. Sami was one that became available, and so we jumped on him, because anyone who's seen him work knows for a guy his size, and he has a really amazing presentation and talent.
Yeah. This is a question for the women on stage with us. You hear. You hear so much about divas revolutions and women's revolutions and things like that. I mean, it seems like the best thing that Lucha has done is incorporated women into a world where they can be taken seriously as competitors against men, and not really drawn such binary lines of who can wrestle who. How did you all feel coming into a company knowing, like, this is what we're going to do? Sometimes you'll be wrestling women, sometimes you'll be wrestling men, but it's not going to be this stop the presses, there's a girl in there with a boy scenario.
Yeah, I think that it's an honor, honestly, to represent what a luchadora is, not what a diva is. And, we really have pushed the envelope. I mean, wrestling in Mexico is part of Lucha Libre. We wrestle with men all the time, so I was excited to show the States and show the rest of the world what I had been doing in AAA, and I think we've done a pretty good job of representing the strength that a woman has as a character, as an athlete, and as a person, and we've really elevated the bar, so.
Be a more kind of regular mainstream practice of women and men being able to wrestle each other without it being this taboo thing?
Pardon? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Do you think that should be a more regular practice?
I think so. I think that overall in sports and entertainment right now, women are getting stronger and stronger, and we're finally getting recognized for the value that we have, and I'm really proud to be part of Lucha Underground because they allow us to do that.
Catrina. After they lose.
That was her idea.
Aaron does this every time too. After every show for the past 3 years, he's like, so are you mad yet that you came up with the lick of death? The lick of death. They gave me and Mil met for the first time, and the day we were there, day one, and they gave me a short description of Catrina, literally like a paragraph, evil, seductress type of thing, and we very layered character, and I was just trying to think of something different, you know, every woman in film and television and the, you know, Poison Ivy type of character, you know, where you kiss, everybody's kissing, and I'm like, what if I lick them? And Krista Johnson looked at me and was like, what? And I was like, no, like, just trust me, like, what if I lick them? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I lick them, like, let's, and he goes, all right, let's try it out of dark, and we tried it, and he's like, well, let's do it. And then there comes the Lick of Death was born, you know. I just wanted to give you guys something like raw, you know. Good, thank you. I'm glad that you like it.
I think people are fans. Were you, when you first signed on to do this, had you left wrestling to get involved in acting primarily?
100%. Yeah, this gave me love for wrestling again and acting and everything in general. You know, I lost my passion a little bit, you know, and in it, you know, the industry kind of wore me out a little bit. I left WWE, and I really wasn't going to turn back, you know, and go in that direction. But this was, you know, I was meant to be Catrina. This was meant to happen. Lucha was meant to become what it's become, and I jumped on board knowing, you know, the amazing people we have on board, and being able to work with people like Skip and Eric and Robert Rodriguez, and have such a diverse group of wrestling talent, you know. And although they know I can do that, they utilize me as a character, which I'm very passionate about, the character aspect as well, and I feel like it's been lacking in this industry for so long. So I'm happy to be able to try to bring that and really push that part of it in the wrestling industry, and also be able to jump in the ring and get speared and get kicked when needed, and lick people. You know? So it's been quite the ride since day one. I've enjoyed it very much.
This is a question for, I guess, all the talent, quote unquote, so Marty, Ray, any of you guys. Maybe not as much Ray, because Ray jumped on halfway through season 2. But when this is getting launched, because the thing about pro wrestling is, every like 2 or 3 years, the industry starts talking about some guy that knows a guy with money that's got this big idea that's going to do, you know, what Lucha actually ended up doing, but it never pans out. Were any of you skeptical that this was actually going to happen when you signed in? Like, were you going like, because it sounds on paper, before we see this, it kind of sounds too good to be true that Robert Rodriguez is starting this cable channel and he wants to do a wrestling show and it's going to be great and blah, blah, blah. And for you guys that have been in the business for a little while, you probably know that most of those promises aren't exactly kept.
For about 12 years now, and before Lucha Underground came about, I had very bad experiences with other main companies. So on a personal level, because of that turmoil that I'd experienced with that, I was kind of skeptical. But one thing that really helped me feel comfortable with it was actually Eric, because I had worked with him in Tough Enough before, so that on a personal level, that kind of made me feel a lot more comfortable, because I had a very good experience working with him in WWE Tough Enough. And, you know, on the professional level, you know, obviously with Robert Rodriguez and, you know, those names, it's like, okay, well, this is something, you know,
It's actually happening.
Yeah, this is gonna happen.
But let me tell you something, because yes, they were really skeptical, you know? I was in a long process of 5 years trying to bring all the capital that you need to make an adventure like that. And even if 5 years ago you told me that there is going to be people like Mark Burnett, all the crew, Robert Rodriguez, was almost a dream, you know? If you're in this industry, you understand that there's just one in the business, that everybody's trying to make something different, but in the manner and in the way, we have 2 Mexican investors who put a lot of money and a lot of time making all this happen. I want to say thank you to these 2 guys. The first one is Antonio Cue, and the second one is Alex Garcia. Antonio was the owner of one MLS team called Chivas USA, and one day we went to the stadium with some wrestlers, and he was so thrilled, because when we arrived and the wrestlers entered to the stadium, all the Mexican people start to surround it. And he told me, why I'm in the soccer business? I need to go to the wrestling business. And all this experience started like that, and he started to put all the things together, and right now we're here. Taya was in Mexico with me, and I think I have spent like 4 years talking about my US project, and everybody was like, yes, come on, it's not going to happen. You told us the same thing for the last 4 years. But basically we are here in season 3, and I cannot be more proud of all these people and all this talent that make that here in New York in a Comic-Con, look all the people and all the attendance that we have for this event. So
It's amazing.
it's
We're more
amazing.
than happy to have you on our way. If you don't get it, you guys are giving the best job.
Young guy in wrestling had to deal with a lot of grizzled veterans coming around and doing things certain ways, some of them for the better, a lot of them maybe not for the better. When you become that grizzled veteran to walk into Lucha Underground, what kind of lessons do you take from your own experience, and how do you handle that?
He's not like that at all. He's amazing.
I'm chilled, man. I'm very chilled.
We're chill.
I've always been, I've always liked to follow orders, and I've always followed them very well. Not a troublemaker, but I have received a lot of influence by my peers, you know, at their time. And even though a lot of people didn't get along very well with like the Nashes and the Halls back in other eras, you know, I actually got along very well with a lot of them, with them indeed, very well. So, you know, I take that and I kind of gather up all of the good feedback that I've had throughout my years and just try to carry it along with me. And if there's ever any advice or any suggestions or help that I might pass along to my peers, you know, I guess that's when the grizzled vet comes in and passes on that information. But, you know, I've actually maintained myself very well, and I'm very happy to still have a run where I have it right now. I'm very happy to be part of this whole team, man. Even though I was part of season 2 and not season 1, I'm happy to be here, and I hope that this can continue for many, 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 many more years, so we can keep entertaining the fans on a different level.
Amen, brother.
Drago's outfit, I told him, hands down, man, your outfit is probably the best outfit I have seen in wrestling up to now. I said, you just incredible with the fire and the wings and the tongue coming out, you know, it's just awesome. So he actually hooked me up with his mask designer, and he created some of this, you know, which I had a lot of trouble wrestling with it. I just decided to bring it on panels or special interviews like that.
Marty, you refereed the Rey Mysterio Prince Puma match, correct?
Woo! Best match in Ultimate Lucha Goes.
You refereed that match, you refereed the Shawn Michaels Undertaker match, right? When you
WrestleMania 25, yeah.
At WrestleMania 25. From your position, how did those two compare? Because you could probably, as far as the companies go, put them on at least somewhat parallel ground.
Yeah, both of them were phenomenal matches to be a part of. I mean, you know, as a wrestling fan, you know, to be in there, of course, you know, I have the best seat in the house. But to be in there with both matches, they were different, whereas Rey and Puma were just bringing it. I mean, they were, just tearing it up. And with Puma, I mean, everybody knows how awesome he is. And Rey, being the master and king that he is, I mean, it was so cool because their chemistry was, it was off the hook. And what they did together was just something that it's like you don't see every day. So both those matches were just one-of-a-kind matches, and to be a part of them was just an amazing experience. And I just feel blessed, and I feel, you know, that God has given me these opportunities to be a great referee and to be in with great talent like that, man. So, yeah, both of them were great matches, and they were great matches on their own.
Yeah. Rey, was that pressure for you to do that match, or was that just something, was that fun? Well, how did you feel going into it?
That was fun.
Yeah.
I feel pressure every time before I go into the ring. That's my normal feeling every time I step into the ring or before I step into the ring. But I'll tell you, man, it's very rare that you get to step into the ring with someone I believe we had wrestled one time before that match, somewhere out in an independent show, and that was actually our second match against each other. We wrestled in the three-way tag teams, but never against each other. So it was pretty much fresh, you know, and to have chemistry like I had with Puma, it was just unbelievable. Still to this day, and I believe I told you this last time I saw you, Sam, but
Yeah.
I think he's probably one of the best, if not the best out there right now. So hats off.